In today's video I'm breaking down and reviewing The Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 3, Hunted. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to see my videos. So episode 3 starts off with the Reaper's ambush, and I really liked how brutal and relentless it was. The Reapers were really good at injuring every single one of these characters, apart from Maggie. The knives are repellent when it comes to Maggie. Literally every other character walked out of that ambush looking like a hedgehog with the amount of knives thrown into them. And I get the whole point of this episode is for Maggie's people, Maggie's friends to be hurt, because it's what she's got them into, but she doesn't acknowledge that herself. In fact, at the end, even blames Negan. I wasn't as annoyed at that comment as I thought I would be, because she's right. She's talking about Season 7, Season 8. If Negan didn't do all that he did, they wouldn't be here right now. But that's like saying it's the cavemen's fault that the Reapers are after them. There's literally every argument in the book that this is Maggie's fault. She's the one that ran off, and if she even remotely showed for a second that she's acknowledged the fact that this is more her fault than anyone else's, it wouldn't be so obnoxious. Weirdly, during the ambush, the Reapers throw a rope over Maggie. They don't stab, they capture her. And Elijah crouches down like he's defusing a bomb on Search and Destroy to try and save her. He's there for way too long, and gets rope thrown around him too, so he saves Maggie, but this could mean that both Maggie and Elijah are wanted by the Reapers, which adds more to the theory that Elijah was a Reaper and he's on the run from them. And with Pope marking Maggie, he could actually want her alive. We saw it in Season 10, Episode 17 with this idiot. He did actually attempt to capture Maggie, which means we could draw this awful throwing knife aim to them just trying to scare Maggie. And so the reason nothing happened to her is because, well, they need her alive. The issue with that is the Reapers did try and take swings at her with a knife. They did try throwing them at her. So it's either them trying to keep her alive or them making Maggie the main character being really obnoxious again, which this episode it just was. So this does add a little bit to the theory that Elijah could have been a Reaper, but with Daryl being interrogated too, there is a chance that them being roped around is them being attempted to be taken for interrogation. I mean, that's where Frost has been taken, the rest are dead. Then we're back at Alexandria and we see our first scene of the main group. Back at this side, it's Magna, Kelly, Rosita, Carol. These scenes were quite nice to see, but the pacing of it was really weird. Kelly at first talks to Magna, and honestly, Magna is so painfully useless and just horrendous when she does talk. Honestly, we're going to get onto that. We get this scene with the main kids of Alexandria talking about when their parents have left and said they're going to be right back, and Judith mentions Michonne and how she left. Now, if you've watched the channel before, you know this isn't really a scene I'd necessarily root for and be so excited about to see, but I actually really like that Herschel has his own personality about him. He is a lot like Glenn, and I really like it. It's the first time in a long time on The Walking Dead that a kid hasn't had such a contrived personality. And RJ too, I think he really brought the scene to life.
Yeah.
And then we're back with Maggie and she makes it to this mall, and that's when we get this scene where a Reaper sneaks up behind her. It was scary until you find out the Reaper's an idiot. It must be the one that no one likes that goes after her because he can't do anything. Maggie's really good at making the Reapers look really, really stupid. I was so hyped for them, and I still am, but the ones that Maggie deals with are just horrendous. Then just before she would reunite with Alden and Negan, we cut back to where Gabriel is, and he's made it out. He's by himself and he's got a knife in his left leg. And the most important thing about this scene is that he's praying, he's thinking of God, and he doesn't manage to get the knife out of him, but he sees a Reaper by himself injured, and that's what gives him the strength to do it. That's what makes him go through with that pain. His fuel for that moment was his rage and want of justice. So another good example of who Gabriel is now. It's not God that gives him strength. He said himself, God's not here. He just wanted revenge. He thinks that was the answer to it. Another big example of how he thinks now. And right now, it is okay. You could argue that's the mindset to have in the zombie apocalypse. We're getting these scenes of Gabriel now with literally each episode. Another example of who he is and how far he's come. But like I've always said since the start of Season 10, it's too much. And very soon, it's going to take an incident for that to happen, for him to go over the edge, to the point he's killing people for all the wrong reasons. It goes from because they deserve to die, to how Gabriel thinks they deserve to die, and that's when, you know, he's going to start going GTA on people. He might as well just tattoo Dwight's comic death on his forehead at this point. And that Reaper he killed, by the way, what a disappointment. Greasy Greg over here ruined it. 80% of what we saw from the Reapers this episode was so bad. It doesn't scream, when they see you, you're dead. So then Maggie finds Alden at the mall. He comes out from behind the pillar and a Reaper charges at him. It was cool, but then Negan came out of nowhere, so it was like he was just watching it happen for a bit. It's like he just watched a Reaper hide behind Alden. But it was really cool to see Negan save Maggie. The Reaper that attacked Alden injured him quite badly and managed to get away, and before he does, he drops a flashbang, which obviously didn't help Alden at all. Then we cut back to Carol, Kelly, Magda and Rosita on their little horse adventure. So on their first attempt, they don't manage to get the horses, and straight after this, out of nowhere, Rosita comes out and says, Abraham talks to me in my dreams, he tells me stuff. She's not even the type of person to believe in astrology. I do like the sentiment of what she said, but it's hard to digest that Rosita would ever say that out loud without being embarrassed by it. The sentiment of it is Abraham is talking to her in her dreams, telling her something which is obviously hinting at her death. In Season 7, Episode 16, Sasha has a flashback of Abraham, and in that scene, in that flashback, she says to him that she had a dream that they were at the beach and Abraham drowned. She tried to stop them from both going on the trip to Hilltop to take Maggie to the doctor because she was having her baby. Abraham said, no, it's fine. And we all know how that little trip ended. So with Rosita having dreams of Abraham and he's telling her something, and he dies in her dream too, it's not looking good for Rosita at all. She's basically receiving warnings in her dreams not to do something, to be wary of something. And I can't help but think that thing is Gabriel. It's still one of the weirdest exchanges I've ever seen in The Walking Dead. Carol says, that's dark, and Rosita says, yeah, I don't know why I just told you that.
Yeah, I don't know, I just told you that.
Oh my god, Carol, I am such a Gemini, and that's why I had Sadiq, Gabriel, Abraham, just everyone, two faces. Rosita talking about astrology is as weird and as out of pocket as it is her saying Abraham talks to her in her dreams. Back to Negan, Maggie and Alden, they hear her screaming, they go to it and it's Agatha and Duncan. Duncan has been bleeding out because of course he took 3 knives to the body and he dies. It made for a really sad scene and Maggie sniffs his head. I just thought I had to mention that because it makes it more sad when you sniff a bald head. Duncan says to Maggie, make sure she gets home. Promise. But I'm afraid, Duncan, Agatha has all the personality of a teabag, so that won't happen. Obviously later on, Agatha gets torn apart by walkers, so it's just tragic that Duncan's dying wish, literal dying wish, was to have Agatha be home safe, but it didn't happen either. Her purpose could have been for Duncan, live for Duncan, get home, for Duncan. But no, she just died. Then the horse group finds some dead horses, and it's this scene that just shows how much of an unpleasant rollercoaster of emotions it really was. Like I said, the issue with these horse scenes was the pacing was so weird. Kelly's crying, then Carol's crying, then Magna hugs Carol so she doesn't feel bad. Yay, we found the horses. Wait, put the lasso down. Why? Because they want to come home. Is that why they just ran yards away from you, is it? By the end of it, I just felt like I'd watched some big shitty commercial. Then we get this really great scene with Negan, Maggie and Alden, and whilst they make a run for it, Negan sees a burnt walker. This is the burnt walker we saw in the trailers and in the sneak peeks. And above the walker is written Judas. Now, Judas means traitor. Betrayal. So this is someone that betrayed the Reapers. Now whilst it makes sense to say it's Elijah, he's in the synopsis of the next episodes in part 1 of season 11, so it can't be him. Before season 11 even started, I said this could be Virgil, because even though Virgil and Connie's episode is later on, it's obviously been played around with in time because Connie hasn't arrived at Alexandria yet, so whatever happened could have happened before even episode 1 started. So it is possible that this could be Virgil, but again, we can't ignore Judas. I think this particular walker's purpose is to just show what the Reapers do. Like I said, the Reapers' kills and punishments are calculated. This person did something to betray them. And with them literally capturing Daryl and Dog, it's showing us what Daryl might have to do when he's there. However, with the leader of the Reapers being called Pope, chances are the meaning of Judas is quite literal. It could literally mean betrayed Jesus. The question of who this is isn't really that important. It could really just be some Reaper that we've never seen before but betrayed the other Reapers. And we'll find out about this unnamed character that the Reapers knew but we didn't in the next few episodes with them. This walker is more of an example. It's more important to ask who will this be than who it already is. And unfortunately this episode shoved it in our face. Who could end up like this? Judas betrayed Jesus, the leader's called Pope, and they leave Alden in a church. They couldn't have shown the cross anymore. The most Walking Dead thing that could happen with this is Alden returns with the Commonwealth and they arrive at Alexandria in episode 8 or episode 9. He doesn't appear for episodes, everyone thinks he's dead, but he helps them. However, there is the undenying foreshadowing and the logic of it. The Reapers will likely find Alden. I really love the contrast of Maggie and Negan in this scene, especially because you've got Negan leaning towards leaving him and even jokes about putting Alden down to put him out of his misery. Then you've got Maggie who wants to help him, wants to stay. But then you've got Alden himself saying the right thing to do is to leave him, and the narrative that the show puts around this scene is that they did the right thing. There's nothing more they could have done. Leaving Alden there was the best thing, especially for his own survival, but Alden himself doesn't even think that he can survive. He doesn't even want Maggie to leave food for him, to give him a knife, because he doesn't even see the point in it, and that's when you have to look at it as the show hanging his coat up for him. With Maggie leaving him with some supplies, we know he can be out there for an episode or two more before making his way back. They've made his absence make sense for him to not appear at Alexandria for a bit. The way you've got to look at it is, why would they even implement this as a thing that happened in the episode? Why leave Alden in the church? Why not, if he's gonna die, kill him already? He's either going to arrive at Alexandria late when the Reapers attack and help the group, or his death is being saved for that moment. After they've left Alden in the church, they walk out and Negan obviously turns round to Maggie, but she walks past him. But Negan stays and looks at the cross. It's like they've just buried Alden. I really love this scene, but what I don't like is that Alden tried transferring the meaning of Adam over to Maggie like she hasn't got enough to be dealing with. Like, Adam's already been passed down from Gamma's sister to Gamma, then to Alden. It doesn't matter if he last minute says, look after Adam for me. No, it doesn't matter. It's his thing now, and it has so much meaning because of how much he hated the Whisperers because of what happened to Enid. For him to come out of that and raise Adam, that's his thing to do, and that's why I don't want him to die. If it was actually Alden's kid that he's had for years, then it would make sense that Maggie would raise Adam, but he hasn't known the kid for years. He's someone that experienced each part of the Whisperer War. He lost his girlfriend to the Whisperers, he hated the Whisperers, he managed to see the good in the Whisperers and then took her nephew. I don't think Maggie should come along after barely experiencing the tail end of the Whisperers and take Adam because Alden told her to. I know Maggie and Alden have a past and that means a lot, but I think it loses a lot of its meaning if it's Adam that's being raised by Maggie after already being passed down to Alden. It just seems almost lazy that they can kill off Alden and just smudge Adam's story into Maggie. I really loved it when Maggie said this was Negan's fault. Negan says you still have to decide. Above Negan randomly mentioning Glenn in episode 1, I think this is the best example of him not backing down. So after Maggie and Negan leave Alden in the church, there's this perfect scene where Negan takes out a walker and he turns round to Maggie, and it's almost an identical shot because it's a reference to season 7 episode 1 where of course he had just killed Glenn. And it goes to show that now he's on her side. They've teamed up, and I was surprised at how quickly they've become okay with each other, but I knew it would happen sooner than later. I said okay with each other, but it's important to understand she doesn't trust him fully yet. She still said to him to stop pretending like he's one of them. She's just able to be in the same room as him without wanting to claw his face off. Then the horse group get back to Alexandria, and there's this awful scene where Magna decides to confront Carol about giving Kelly false hope on Connie coming back. She hugged her earlier saying, "You don't feel bad about letting us down, Carol." When Carol did achieve that and cheer everyone up, she goes over to her and ruins it and brings her back down. Of course, now Carol has to kill one of the horses and it's really miserable. It probably could have been a bit happier if Magna hadn't ruined it. Overall, it was a good episode with some really cool scenes in it. I could have done without a few of them. Episode 1 and 2 were really great because they were good all around. With episode 3, I've had to skew in and out of things I've liked. An episode as a whole, I can't say it was perfect. I can't say it was really great like episode 1 and 2 were, because it wasn't. Some of the scenes just let it down. I don't like using the term filler or saying it was boring, because these scenes have to happen for those big action-packed scenes to even mean anything. And I know cringe is an overused word now. Everyone says it for things that aren't even cringy. Sometimes when something is different, people will call that cringe. If you like something that everyone else likes, the most popular thing, you will be called cringe. But when I use it, just know that I'm being genuinely traumatized, and I feel like the bones in my back want to escape my body. And every time Magna has done anything ever since season 10 has been god awful, and it's like she can't display any other emotions than being constantly hostile. In this episode, it's like the show is saying out loud, this is what happens when Magna does something. But what do you think? Did you enjoy this episode as a whole? What do you think is going to happen with Alden next? Will he die? Will he survive somehow? And what do you think this Judas Walker is really all about? Make sure you comment down below and let me know what you think. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you press the like button. It actually helps me out and will get this video seen by more people. And if so, then check out my other videos. Check out this one where I talk about Negan and Gabriel finally talking about their CRM experience they had with Judas years ago. This could actually mean that instead of Gabriel and Negan dying, they instead go to the Rick Grimes movie trilogy. And watch this one where I break down the latest trailer for The Walking Dead World Beyond Season 2. Judas is now in it. And go and check out this one on my gaming channel. I finally meet my match. A God mode player approaches me. Little slippery fucker. I've got you. What? What? Fucking hell! Hulk Hogan looking fucker. What are you trying to do? Why do you bother?